May I help you?
Yeah, this is Charley Long, my husband Ben's grandfather. We're here to check in today.
Yes, we've been expecting you. Is he with you?
Grandpa Charley?
What?
You'll have to holler at him. You cannot hear a thing.
We get that all the time.
What are you still doing down there?
Trying to catch my wind.
Okay, well, we're checking in up here.
Well, go ahead. I'll be up there in a minute.
Here are some forms for you to fill out. You'll just take this, go through the door down the hall to the office, and they'll take care of you down there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Rangeview Rest Home. Oh, hi, Mabel. How are you? Did he really? Oh, my lands. I cannot believe that. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And did you tell him how it was? Really? And how do you take that? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Really?
Mama? Mama? Is it time for church again?
No, Miss Driscoll, it's time for your nap. It's time for your nap.
Papa?
No, no.
Papa!
Mr. Long, you to wait down the hall to the right in the day room. Go on. Now.
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Driscoll.
Forward. Right down. Right. That'll be a nice. All right. So, you know what I was just thinking? Maybe Caroline could spend the night with Francis. Sure. That would be okay.
I was going behind.
That television turned up way too loud. Please keep it turned down.
I can change it.
What?
I can change it if you don't like westerns.
Oh, no, I like westerns just fine.
No problem. I've seen this one a dozen times.
Well, I've probably seen it 24 times. It's one of my favorites, so I think it's Tom Mick's best.
Yep. Old Tom Mix really knew his stuff. He wasn't no drugstore cowboy like a lot of those new fellas who think that all they have to do is put on a cowboy hat and they're the real thing.
Well, he could really ride a horse, and I tell you, he could really shoot too. Fact is, I was pretty good back when I had my own teeth.
Isn't it the truth? William Annis. Everybody calls me Bill.
Charley Long.
Nice to meet you, Charlie.
You too, William. Bill.
So, are you moving in here?
Yeah, I guess I am. Wasn't my idea, though. Well, I was living with my grandson, Ben, his wife, Jennifer. They, getting ready to have a new little one, so they need my room for the new baby, so I'm out.
Lost my wife a long time ago. Cancer. I didn't have any place else to go, and this seemed to be as good a place as any to wait for the good Lord to call me home. Lost our son in WW2. We were too old to have kids after that, and she never got over him being killed. She just lost her will to live. Passed away too soon. I miss her every day.
I'm sorry. Sometimes it seems like things just don't turn out the way we want. So you like westerns, huh?
Oh yeah, I grew up on a big farm and I could ride before I could walk.
Well, I was raised on a pretty big ranch, and I always thought that walking was the lowest form of getting around there was. The good Lord didn't give us wings, but the horse is a very wonderful creation. Oh.
Looks like you've made friends already. I told Ben you'd be just fine here. You never were very shy.
Jennifer, this is William. Oh, sorry, Bill. We were just talking about the good old days. Bill, this is my grandson's wife, Jennifer, and this is their little girl, Hannah. And but Ben, he ain't here though.
Now, Grandpa Charlie, you know how hard Ben works. He would have liked to have been here, but there's some kind of crisis at the department. He barely gets to see the kids. Speaking of which, the boys are going to be late for Little League, so I've got to go. And William, it was sure nice to meet you, and I'm glad Charlie has somebody to visit with. You two stay out of trouble and no chasing nurses. Go tell Papa bye.
Oh, bye-bye, sweetheart, and thank you. I love you so much. You be sure and do what your mom and daddy says, okay? You come see me sometime, all right?
Bye, Papa.
Bye-bye. Say bye to Uncle Bill now.
Bye, Uncle Bill.
She seems nice, Charlie. A little busy maybe, but nice.
That's what I always thought, too. All my family moved off except for my grandson Ben and his wife Jennifer. He's a detective with the police department here in town. Always seems like he's trying to solve some big crime. They've got, well, they got two little boys and then that little girl that you met earlier.
So tell me about this ranch you grew up on. We had horses on the farm, but I rode an old mule to school every day until I had to quit the 3 R's to work the place full time.
It was up near Bliss before they named it Marland. We lived there because my dad was the top hand on the place, called 101.
101, huh? Greatest Wild West show in the country, as I remember.
Well, later on it was, but it started out as a big cattle ranch. That's why my dad was hired, really. He worked thousands a head for the Miller brothers. Matter of fact, before Tom Mix was a big movie star, he worked on the ranch there too for Colonel Zach Miller. I'll never forget. They had a pet bear out in front of the general store. His name was Tony, and that bear loved soda pop.
That must have been something to see. I saw that show when it came down to Ardmore one time. Greatest thing I've ever seen. I'll never forget what those Russian Cossacks did. They took a table and put it out in the middle of the arena, and then one of them fur-hatted fellas stood on his head on top of that table, and then two men got on each side of him, took his legs and put him in a big V, Then about a half a dozen of them took their horses and rode full tilt and jumped between his legs, a hooping and a hollering like they were running off to battle somewhere.
I know just what you mean. Them Cossacks is the scariest people I ever seen. Well, I remember when I was a kid, if I seen one of them coming down the road, I'd cross over just so I wouldn't meet him. I always thought they probably chewed nails for breakfast. And they carried them great big swords, too. I remember thinking if I looked cross-eyed at one of them, he might just lop my head off.
Must have been a great place to grow up. A lot better than our farm.
Well, maybe it was, but in my opinion, the dad bum government decided that the millers were getting too big and tried to shut them down because they was printing their own money, and the government called it counterfeiting. Well, it was a whole sight better than what the fellas in Washington was printing. That's what I thought. Of course, it was only good on 101, but you could buy anything you needed in their store. While the rest of the country was scrambling around trying to figure out how to keep their belly button from rubbing on their backbone, we never went hungry.
I know what you mean. We could barely afford to buy seed for the crops. And about that time, everything turned to dust anyway. Bank got the farm. I joined the army to keep them starving to death. Things were a lot better when I was younger, though. I thought the good times would never end. Hunting, fishing, chasing the dogs through the woods, swimming in the creek. But I couldn't wait to grow up. And now I'd give anything to be 12 again, or even back in the cavalry.
So you were a horse soldier, huh?
Sure was. 1st United States Volunteer Cavalry. One of the Rough Riders. Went with Teddy down to Cuba in 1898.
So you made the charge up San Juan Hill?
Well, to tell the truth, we Rough Riders charged up Kettle Hill.
I'll never forget that as long as I live. It was like a dream. Teddy sat there on his horse as calm as you please. That cannon went off and Teddy rode up and looked at us and yelled, "Charge!" And we started running, firing and reloading as fast as we could. We could still hear the cannon booming behind us, but old Teddy only thought about taking that hill. We did, too.
After we whipped them there, we went across the San Juan Hill because the Spaniards had the 71st New York and Blackjack Pershing's Buffalo soldiers pinned down. Old Teddy was a good one to ride the river with. Good president, too.
Oh, he was sure enough ace high, all right. I remember when he was president, of course, he caused Congress to create the Platte National Park right here in Oklahoma. And that was way even before we become a state. He sure enough loved this country, all right. There ain't no doubt about that. Of course, I never did get to join up, do any fighting. They made me a bronc buster supplying horses for the quartermaster.
Well, don't put yourself down. If it wasn't for good hands like you supplying horses, well, I might have been in the infantry. And the shame of it would have plumb done me in.
So did you stay in the Army long?
Well, yes. When they disbanded the volunteers, I decided to stay in and join the regular Army. 1901, they sent us to the Philippines, and we fought those tough little Moro rebels. Tell you, we lost a lot of good men in that jungle over there. In 1915, I went down with Pershing to chase Pancho Villa across the desert.
So did you fight in the big war?
Oh, yeah. That made the Spanish-American War look like a picnic. I got the shakes real bad, and old Jim here got shell-shocked, and he's still deaf and dumb from it. After that, I decided that 20 years was enough, and my luck had just about run out, so I decided to retire. Were you in that war?
No, I tried, but I was too old by the time that loudmouth Kraut started getting too big for his britches. You know, that's one thing they never could get right in them early westerns. I guess that's why they call it throwing lead. You know, them fellas, you couldn't hit the broadside of a barn shooting a gun like that.
That's for sure. I bet the fellow that made this movie never fired a gun in his life. Probably one of those Hollywood types with a French beret and jodhpurs and a smoking a cigarette on a stick.
Hey, did you notice how nobody ever gets killed in one of these westerns? Well, maybe the Indians, but they shoot the gun out of their hand or maybe shoot them in the shoulder, but nobody ever gets killed. Yeah. You know, I remember the time I saw a fella got killed.
What happened?
I was just a pup. My pa took me out to lion camp where some of the boys was busting out their string during fall roundup after a long break in the summer. Nobody seemed too sad about losing old John. Well, I tell you, he'd have rode that thing too if his cinch hadn't have broke. Well, anyway, some of the boys carried him out back behind the line shack and buried him since nobody knew who his kin was. But it made a real impression on me, and every time I saddled a bronc after that, I checked that cinch and give it an extra look.
I saw enough killing to last more than a lifetime. And none of it left me feeling good no matter whose side it was on. I sure hope I don't have to see any more of it. Well, I suppose it won't bother me much to see it on TV anyway. Those fellas that get shot this week, they just turn around next week and shoot somebody else. Say, there's a new Western series coming on today, and I think it's right after this movie. What do you say we watch it? Listen, Charlie, I've got a question to ask you. If you could live your life over again, exactly as it was, knowing full well that you'd end up again right here, right now, would you do it?
Well, Bill, there are some things I'm sure I would change, but I've learned that the Almighty has a reason for the way everything ought to go, whether I understand it or not. I've had a pretty good life, all in all. So I probably don't have anything to complain about. Would you look at the breast collar on that horse? They didn't start using them until the 40s.
You ever see a chuck wagon cook wash his hands before serving the grub? Look how clean that apron is.
Oh no, look at that ignorant. Look at that fellow over on the other side.
Look at the way he's gussed up like that. You know.
Yeah. They ain't never going to get it right, but
Hey, they ought to hire me and you to help them with this, you know?
Must have lost our number, yeah. Kind of fun to watch, so anyway, I suppose.
Yeah.